Hi everybody, this is Carol Ann here, and I thought I would, as part of Mental Health Week 2015, I thought I would tell my story of how I came to my diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. So, here goes. Back in 1997, when our body was 17, we were admitted to hospital with symptoms such as ongoing headaches, palpitations, stomach aches, abdomen pain, undiagnosed symptoms basically, but they were very debilitating and caused us a lot of pain, illness, stress. Anyway, we were admitted to hospital, and after a couple of weeks of tests and stuff, they concluded that we had severe stress disorder. So we were diagnosed then with acute stress disorder. We hadn't told anybody at the time prior to that about the abuse or anything that we were suffering at the boarding school that we suffered the abuse in. And we hadn't discussed the voices we were hearing in our head, or which we now know were the alters. We hadn't discussed the lost time, the memory gaps, anything like that. We hadn't discussed it with anyone. So when we were diagnosed with the acute stress disorder, they got a psychiatrist in to assess us. And she came in and we told her about our mood and stuff. At the time we had really low mood, and our eating we were severely anorexic at the time. And so she dealt with the low mood and the anxiety and the anorexia. And she put us on antidepressants, and she got us a counsellor who we just saw for 9 months and we didn't really click with. But we did see somebody for 9 months, and we saw the psychiatrist as an outpatient for the next year as well. And things went from bad to worse. We got a lot of flashbacks. We got very, very bad dissociation, but we didn't know at the time that it was dissociation. Our flashbacks were really, really severe, and we were very non-functional. We were in and out of hospital again with, seizures and different symptoms. It was a really, really bad time. Our eating disorder went out of control, and they threatened to put a tube in our nose and all sorts of things. But eventually, after 9 months of seeing the therapist that the psychiatrist recommended, we stopped seeing her, and we went to another therapist, and this therapist was a lot better, and she picked up straight away that something wasn't right. At the time, our host Shirley was out a lot still, and they connected her and this new therapist, and Shirley ended up telling her a lot of stuff about our life. And then she ended up telling her about the little girl in her head called Dorina, who chats a lot and who was there, basically. Shirley could hear her. And so she ended up telling this new therapist all about Dorina, who is 6, I might add. And then, as the weeks went on, Dorina got brave and she wrote some emails to the therapist, because the therapist allowed us to email her between sessions. And so Dorina wrote her a letter and some emails. And then when she gave the letter to her, all decorated with stickers and everything, and when the therapist read the emails, she said, something is wrong here. I think you need to be assessed again. And so she took us to see the psychiatrist that we'd been seeing again, and she told her she came with us to the assessment, and she told her basically what was going on. and how we were and stuff like that. And the psychiatrist listened and asked some questions, and she is actually the one who unofficially diagnosed us with DID, or as it was then called, multiple personality disorder. But that was unofficial. It wasn't on paper or anything. It wasn't, as you say, a proper diagnosis. So for years we had an unofficial diagnosis of DID, and we sought treatment, and we had a doctor, and we had therapists. We didn't have the same therapist, but we had different therapists for years. And then in 2007, we met a therapist. After some serious suicide attempts, we met this therapist and we went to see her, and we saw her actually for 4.5 years. We only stopped seeing her in 2011, but she was good in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways she wasn't good, so it was kind of a double-edged sword. But one of the main good things that she did for us was she managed to get us a formal diagnosis of DID. So what happened was, in December 2010, we got some funding, and some specialists who are specialists in trauma and dissociation, they came from the UK. It was Remy Akron from the Pottergate Centre for Trauma and Dissociation, and Dr. Paul Miller, also, who is a consultant psychiatrist, also from the Pottergate Centre. The two of them, Remy is a psychotherapist and Paul, as I said, is a psychiatrist, and the two of them came over in 2010, and they did some tests on us. They did like the structured clinical interview for dissociative disorders. They did the somatoform disorder interview. They did the dissociative experience scale. They did some psychological tests. They did a lot of tests, and we had a whole day-long assessment from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, where our therapist and us and our then psychiatrist, we had a different psychiatrist. Her name was Dr. Collins. Now we have Dr. Barry, as you know, but Dr. Collins was our psychiatrist at the time. She came to the part of the assessment and gave her input, and the doctor and psychotherapist spoke to her, and we were present. And after that assessment, they made up a report, and we were given our formal DID diagnosis. It's been a long journey since then. As I said, we stopped seeing the therapist that gave us, that helped us get that diagnosis in 2011. And we went to a specialist who is Eileen, our current therapist. And we went to her from 2012 until we're still seeing her now, so that's 3 years nearly. She is a trauma specialist and also specializes in dissociative disorders. She was also a psychiatric nurse for 27 years and has that behind her, and she's trained in EMDR. And we've been seeing her now, as I said, for the best part of 3 years, and it's going great. We've done a lot of work with her, and we are more cohesive, and we are working on inner communication. We are more cooperative as a system, and that's because of Eileen, and it's also because of our wonderful psychiatrist, Dr. Barry. And yeah, so that's basically how we got our diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.